Hello, this is Dana and welcome to the Orchid Hut. Today's video is about this double-spiked Catasetum. Join me as we talk more about this orchid. Welcome back to my channel. As mentioned in the brief introduction, this video is about this gorgeous double-spiked Catasetum orchid. So let's get the name out of the way right from the beginning. It is a Fredclarkeara intergeneric hybrid after dark, developed by Sunset Valley Orchids. It's an award-winning American Orchid Society orchid. And it's a cross between a Mormodia orchid as well as a Catasetum, and I'll put that cross name up on the screen. And the Mormodia orchid is a bit of an artificial genus, as it's called, and that itself is a cross between a Clowesia orchid and a Mormodes orchid. Okay, so I am so thrilled with the blooming of this orchid. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while, you will know that at the beginning of 2022, I repotted this Catasetum orchid, and it was my first Catasetum repot ever. And I, had looked at a bunch of sources, had watched, a lot of other videos, read, other methods for potting Catasetum orchids, and then I kind of tweaked everything that I read and learned and tried to adapt it for what I knew my growing environment would be. And so I don't want you to leave this video, but I will put a link in the upper right hand corner of the screen to that repotting video. I sort of did a layer of packing peanuts down in the bottom of the pot, and I did some drainage holes above those packing peanuts so that excess water could run out. And then I kind of did my own potting media. And I will tell you that as I took care of this orchid, it, did really well with how I potted it. In the heat of the summer, I was having to water it, twice a day. And the other thing that I did not do, which many growers choose to do, is I did not put any slow release fertilizer inside the pot. I wanted to be able to control both the water and the feed. So I was just feeding it similarly to all of my other orchids. It was getting extra water, so it was probably getting extra food along with that. And I couldn't be more pleased with how this orchid grew for me and then developed these two gorgeous spikes. So really, this particular orchid is just grown like any other Catasetum. You may have to make some adaptations for your environment. It is very thirsty. It does like high feed. And then, as the weather started to cool and the spikes were just developing, I did bring it into the house. I wanted to bring it in before there was any risk of bud blast. So the spikes were just developing. I brought it in under the grow lights to finish developing these bloom spikes. They are male bloom spikes. I'm perfectly happy with that. They say that if your growing conditions are absolutely perfect, you will get female blooms. However, I am perfectly happy with these. And let's just talk a little bit more about this orchid. Now, I do have it up on a pedestal here because the blooms are draping down. So what I'm going to try to do without disturbing it too much is show you the bulb that was grown this year under my care, which I think is a job well done also. So I repotted these 4 bulbs in the repotting video, and then this was the one that grew this year for me, taller and larger than the others. I did stake it so that it wouldn't tip in the pot, and these 2 super spectacular bloom spikes developed, and now what we have to talk about is the fragrance, because wow, When the blooms first started to open, there was no fragrance at all, and I thought, oh, that's kind of disappointing. I really was expecting some scent with this one. And as the spikes began to mature, they started releasing their perfume like around 9 in the morning until about 3 in the afternoon, with a peak of fragrance, at midday. And in my secondary grow space, which is a smaller bedroom than my kitchen, it was filling the entire space with fragrance. Now, I would describe this as spicy, kind of with a vanilla backdrop. It is a tiny bit pungent. It's different, it's not what I would call like a really noticeable floral scent, but it is a very strong, pungent, spicy, vanilla type scent. And as I brought this orchid out into my kitchen getting ready to do this video, these 2 bloom spikes fill my entire kitchen, which is about 3 times the size of the bedroom that it was in, with fragrance midday. So I can walk in the door, which is, a good 30 feet from here, and the smell just hits me in the face right off. So just know that if you grow this one, you're going to get quite a bit of fragrance from it. Now, as the blooms have matured, what I have noticed is that they have turned a bit lighter in color. So initially, I would say that they were very much a brown chocolatey type of color, and now they are turning a bit more maroon in color as the blooms get a bit older, and the lip is beginning to fade just the slightest bit. So the lip was initially not quite so light colored, but as the blooms are maturing and getting older here, the lip is beginning to lighten a little bit, and the green all along the lip is lightening a little bit. Still, though, very attractive. This one has been in bloom now for several weeks, and it still looks really good. So I'm just so pleased with how this one has grown this year. I did stop watering it right as the buds were beginning to develop. So water needs to be decreased until you're not watering the orchid anymore at all as it approaches dormancy. So now the next step for this orchid will be to go ahead and let the bloom spikes die, and once that happens, I will cut them away and unpot this orchid, cutting away the entire root system so that it can remain in dormancy for the remainder of the winter at least, and then at some point it will begin to put on new growth, and you can bet that I will be repotting it in an almost identical way because I'm really pleased with the results I got this year. So if you enjoyed this video or learned something new, please give it a thumbs up. The subscribe button will be coming up in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Thanks so much for watching, and talk to you next time.